Get up, my world is with my girls, living on the dance floor.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast, Leave It on the Dance Floor. Today, we're going to answer some questions. I'm going to use your line. I want to dive in to some of the questions from our YouTube Premium and Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, so we're going to do things a little bit differently, guys, this week. Just, give you a little bit of a shorter one. And, all of you ask questions literally every single week. So we just want to make sure that we hear you, we see you. There's so many. So, and I try to get
Lots of questions.
Yeah, and I try to make the notes easy for Abby. We talk
I can understand difficult notes.
No, you can. It's just there's so much to discuss, and I feel like sometimes that we never get time to answer everything in our Ask Abby sections. But this is an Ask Abby episode. We're doing dedicated Ask Abby's for our subscribers coming up soon.
But I try to answer questions that I know people are going to have ahead of time. Like, I know what they're going to ask, but then we get some doozies.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some questions. So Lauren asks if you could delete any dance ever from Dance Moms, Abby's Ultimate, or Studio Rescue didn't have any dances. If you could take back a dance that made it to air, what would it be?
Oh, well, of course, Kalani falling on her butt. I would say Maddie, we were in some gymnasium and she went to do an aerial walkover, but threw her arms from underneath to do a diving front walkover, completely different trick. And then in midair, remembered what she was supposed to be doing and tried to change the rotation of her arms and fell. Oh, goodness. There's probably been a lot. I think it's more so a child falling or getting hurt. Something like that is what I would want to take back. Not so much that it was an awful bad routine. But there's been some of those too.
Yeah. And I mean,
I don't agree with that.
Well, no, the only reason I'm agreeing with that is because while you had to create all the dances, there was dances that were kind of forced upon you that you didn't necessarily want to create because, there's all of these themes and sometimes some were better than others. Sometimes, some didn't age well. And, that wasn't necessarily because you're the one that pulled it out of thin air.
Oh, no, I didn't pull any. Well, yeah. Everything that was really good, I pulled out of thin air. Or I pulled out of my bag of tricks from teaching for 30 years. I knew numbers that would win. I knew, a Helen Keller or a straitjacket or a spider or this or that would win. They're winning numbers.
So Molly asks, best and worst part about Dance Moms. And how about you do that short? Because I know you have a lot to say about both. So what would you say the best thing about Dance Moms is in one sentence?
2 sentences. Okay. The best thing about Dance Moms was that children all over the world started to dance because of Dance Moms. And also because I'm grateful for the other opportunities that I got because of the show Dance Moms. Just things like going to The View or being on The View, co-hosting The View, judging Dancing with the Stars, those fun things, even going to the Emmys. The Emmy Awards in California, going to the Oscar party. Those are the things that I look back on and remember fondly.
And I know you have...
And the worst thing?
Yeah, I'm sure you have a book, but let's try to think of one thing. Like if you have, well, I think I can probably say, but I think what would you say the worst part would be?
The worst part was being scrutinized and investigated and treated like it was a witch hunt in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my hometown, where I paid taxes for a long time, a lot of years, treated by the people of the city of Pittsburgh. And in the end, ended up going to prison because of the way I was depicted on a television show. I'm not going to say any more. You have to watch my documentary called Life Sentence because I don't think the judge knew it at the time, but the way I ended up in a chair and what happened, it's a life sentence.
Yeah. And
that was more than one sentence. I'm sorry.
No, well, I mean, it was true.
That was more than 2 sentences. I'm sorry.
So somebody named In Your Room asks,
In your room.
yeah, that's a little creepy. Do you miss the OG girls?
I miss working day to day with the OG girls in my own studio in Pittsburgh, uh, in regular class. Not so much on the show, but just teaching them and seeing them improve and master a trick or achieve a goal that they struggled with. Yes, of course. I miss all my students.
Brooke asks, can I start dance at 14 with no experience?
Yes, I actually have a student, someone that I'm mentoring right now. Her name's Eleanor, and she started taking my Zoom classes during COVID, during the quarantine. She is from England. She lives in London, and she hadn't really danced seriously before the age of 14 and just knew that that was her destiny and that's what she wanted to do. And she just started. She started in a school program. I think it was actually a class in school rather than phys ed. And she started dancing and couldn't do a thing, but loved it. And then she just started taking every single class that she could.
Ronnie asks, will you fly me out to the U.S. for a meet and greet for Leave It on the Dance Floor?
Ronnie, I'm not flying you anywhere, but where do you live? You didn't tell us. Maybe if you can get a cheap flight on Spirit Airlines or something, we could talk about it. And do you have any talents? Like, what do you do? Are you a web developer? Are you a social media guru? Do you have 40 million people on TikTok? Then we can talk about a flight.
And just, for people, we are definitely thinking about all the possibilities as far as contests go. You guys are just going to have to keep listening and keep writing in and letting us know what you are.
You have to subscribe to Patreon. You have to be that YouTube premium subscriber, and then you're going to find out about the contests and the, gift cards to fly out to LA or perhaps to Orlando, Florida. Maybe a free hoodie. Winning this, winning that.
There's going to be plenty of giveaways coming on this podcast.
And we also have the whole, NFT thing happening.
Yeah, and guys, Abby teaches on Zoom every week. So
I give a lot of scholarships away.
Yeah, so if it's just that and you want to take class with Abby and you're a dedicated listener and we do a giveaway, we see everything. So
that's right.
Keep writing in.
And the girl, going back to the girl who was 14 that never danced, how come you're not on Zoom with me? That's a really great way to start dancing without anyone seeing you. You can do it in the privacy of your own home and your own bedroom, and you don't even have to turn the camera on. Today, I had about 20 people in my class that did not have their cameras on. Some of them are dance teachers, I know.
Anna asks, how can I book a masterclass in person with you?
A masterclass in person? You would have to have over 100 dancers at your studio. We could arrange that. So you would have to have the studio owners or the teachers contact me through email at info@abbyleedancecompany.com or aldcworldwidelive.com and send in an email if you want me to visit your studio. Those arrangements can be made. If you want to just take a class in LA from me, same thing, email, and I can give you my schedule. Like this next week, I'll be teaching, I believe it's Saturday, the 24th. I'll be in the studio all day teaching privates.
Yeah, and just, DM us. We see everything. So
well, I don't see the DMs, but he does.
I do.
Millions of kids go to bed hungry each night in the U.S. So when I found out about a nonprofit that feeds 5,000 underserved children each night named Katerina's Club, headed by Chef Bruno Serrato, I knew I had to help. After all, who knows kids better than me? He launched Katerina's Club when he found out about California's motel kids. These children are so poor that their entire families live in single-room motels with no kitchens, nowhere to cook, no dinner. So food was a rarity for many of these families. He has been feeding kids, 5,000 kids, every single night since 2005. He even mortgaged his home twice to keep the program going. When his restaurant, Anaheim White House, burned to the ground, he found another kitchen that same day to keep feeding kids without interruption. He has served well over 10 million meals. We are looking for any size donations. After all, a $5 donation feeds a family of 4. While food banks are helping ease the crisis, many of these children, often referred to as motel kids, live in cheap, crime-ridden units that do not contain kitchens. Since these families are unable to cook dinner, they depend on already prepared meals like those provided by Katerina's Club. To become involved and make a donation, go to katerinasclub.org/donate. Again, that's katerinasclub.org/donate.
Brandon asks, do you regret anything you said to the girls? Would you take anything back?
You can't really suck back in words.
No.
What's said is said, what's done is done. If you hurt people's feelings, you have to live and learn from that. And same thing with people that hurt my feelings with choice words or ugly, hateful words. My words were never meant to be ugly or hateful. They were meant to be corrections. They were meant to snap a kid out of it. They were meant to say, you know what? Don't run to your mommy. Don't tattle. Don't say I said this and I said that. Just, step it up. Get better. Move on. You don't really hear me screaming and yelling at the kids that were winning or the kids that were taking those corrections, applying them, and move on. Don't make the same mistakes over and over because that's when you really grate on your teacher's nerves. There you go.
Kelsey asks, best tips for turns. We have a lot of dance tips on Patreon and YouTube Premium for people who are subscribers. So they see your Dance Digest content to get all the tips and more. But in this situation, what can Kelsey do to better, her turns? We don't really know how old she is, what her skill level is. But as far as a dance instructor, what would you say?
Just to overall, spotting, placement, releve. So your body alignment, when you pull your leg up to passe, if you're lifting your hip up and distending your rib cage to the side, you're going to fall over. You have to have that perfect body alignment. You have to get in releve and you have to practice. So find a piece of carpet and burn a hole through it. Don't forget to check the ALDC Dance Digest. That's premium content. And there's lots of tips. I just did a whole, just everything about competing and going to nationals because a lot of kids right now are going to nationals. There's a whole lot of information out there and it is valuable. So check that out.
Alicia asks, would you ever have another pet?
Alicia.
Okay,
this is kind of a crude Abby answer. I like to talk like my mom, like a lady.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people when they say, you have to get another pet, get a pet. I have trouble wiping my own ass, let alone someone else's. That's a crude answer, but it's the truth. It's like, how am I going to run around with the dog, a puppy, and it gets sick and poops all over the place and I have to clean it up? How can I physically do that?
Yeah.
I can't. And what if my chair rolls through it? And what if I roll over the dog?
Mm-hmm. You would never forgive yourself.
Oh my God, I'd kill myself. Like that would be horrendous. So I would have a tiny little lap dog, but I need to be walking and taking care of myself first. Although any store that I'm in, anytime I'm out on the street, anytime I cut through a park and there are dogs and puppies, I stop and I play with them and I let them lick me and I give them kisses because I love every single one of those animals. But for me right now, it would not be the best, safest environment for the animal.
But Baby was your baby.
She was my baby.
And I'm so sad that I never got to, meet her.
And I was
your
30
mother.
and I wanted a dog every single day of my life. Maybe we need to do a video like me going to the pet store or something.
That would be really
and holding
nice.
them. And then I could do a whole sit and 30-minute talk on, not 30, 20-minute talk on my pet and show pictures. That's a good YouTube.
I think an
But
episode.
let's go out and
for
find
sure.
them.
I think an episode about Broadway Baby would be amazing. The fans always talk about Broadway Baby.
Really?
Funny enough,
That's wonderful.
It's just cute because I feel like obviously the show painted you to be this villain and all this stuff, and that with your child, your baby, your pet. That showed how I see it when we're out and
Like
see,
loving and kind. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, with children and especially animals. But yeah, you were saying that you were one of the first people. Well, you were the OG of the put the
I had
dog
a
in.
pink stroller,
Yeah, and now
like this
everybody does.
bubblegum pink stroller,
Yeah,
and baby would go in it, and it was like a regular stroller, and it was like a pram, like a bassinet, a real stroller. And I had that in Pittsburgh all those years ago, and people looked at me like I was a lunatic, like, oh my God, look at this weirdo with the dog. And people in Pittsburgh just didn't do that. And now out here in LA, everybody has a pet. Everybody has it in a stroller. You go into Nordstrom shoe department, there's more dogs in there than people. It's just, I was just ahead of my time. So was Broadway Baby.
yeah. So we'll definitely do an episode about Broadway Baby soon, whether it's on YouTube or just the podcast. Uh, when Sydney asks, when you did the show Dance Moms, were the arguments with the moms real or staged? And I think maybe, because I know that you've talked about this before, maybe give a percentage of what was real and what, well, not staged, but what was set up versus what was like authentic and genuinely happened in real time.
I think there were underlying conflicts that went on and on and on throughout the years that I never got over. So when there was kind of a setup, we have to fight about something, I went to that underlying problem in my studio, in my business with that person. That's where I would go. So I think, with that being said, I think maybe 35% was real and 65% was manufactured. But I always went to that real place. And I think some of the moms did too, or they understood that's where I went with it.
Because you guys all would go out to dinner after.
Well, I would go
like,
sometimes to dinner with
Okay.
them. I usually escaped to the movie theater
oh yeah,
every Friday night because I needed to escape my real world and go into somebody else's world, into a scripted world, and another problem,
Yeah.
another thing, some laughter. And I needed to get away for 2 hours. So I would go shopping, even though I didn't need to shop. I would go shopping and then I would go to the movies. They would all go to like a nice restaurant, fancy restaurant, a decent chain restaurant, and have dinner. The kids stayed at the hotel. That's another story. And Nia would usually go with the moms to dinner. So Holly, Melissa, Jill would go to dinner. Maybe the other mothers would go to the bar with the crew and just eat in the hotel restaurant and
Mhm.
drink at the hotel bar. And then the kids would get room service at the hotel. I would escape and do my own thing.
I think I know this one. Gabby asked if you could change one thing, anything about Dance Moms, what would it be? One singular thing. I'm gonna say that's the homeschool, right? Is that, I think, would you say the
Well, no,
homeschooling?
I think I would go much broader than that.
Oh,
Who is it?
okay.
Lucy? Who is her name?
This is Gabby.
I'm sorry, Gabby. Gabby, I would change the contract that I signed.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
That's
Because it encompassed a lot.
that's true. And then finally we will do, what is your favorite Ma Bax, M.A. Bax asks what your favorite dance that you ever choreographed on and off Dance Moms. So your favorite on Dance Moms and then your favorite off Dance Moms.
Ma backs. The favorite routine we did, because there would be Gianna involved, I don't know, other people involved, would be, well, the last text for the meaning of it, but I love the Lizzie Borden number, and I love the spider number that Lily did, and also her straitjacket number. They stand out to me as just being just flawless in the lines and the technique and the execution were
And
incredible.
Hotline was so good too.
If you knew in Hotline how Suicide Hotline,
Mm-hmm.
how long we worked on Kendall picking that phone up on the right count of the music with the phone ringing at the
Mhm.
end. That took more time than the whole dance.
Well, it was kind
And
of
I don't mean Kendall. I just mean the running in and the grabbing the phone on the perfect count.
So you knew.
That you knew that she was late and she missed the call and that someone died. So, or was going to kill themselves because they didn't answer the phone. That's what was so important in that number. And it was just the pivotal moment, and it had to be right. Well, off camera, it's a piece that we did twice. I did it once, and then I waited an entire decade. 10 years later, the subject matter was still relevant in the newspaper and on television on the news, night after night. I don't want to say the name of it because when I have a new television show, we're going to do the number. But there is a group number that we did off camera. I did a lot of great group numbers, but...
Was Gianna in it?
Gianna was in it the second time I did it.
Okay.
The first time she was not.
And those of you who are our subscribers, you have been lucky enough to see some recital footage.
Oh, you're going to see a lot of, we didn't say recital. You are going to see a lot of dance concert. Yes. So the Mary and Lorraine Dance Studios, which is my mom, and the home of the Abbey Lee Dance Company, the dance concerts, the year-end concert, and you're going to see a lot of footage. You're going to see some incredible dancers. Although dance evolves and changes, and the kids, what they're doing now on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok is, my jaw drops. I mean, there is a new acrobatic trick every single day. It's nuts what kids are doing. So kudos to all of you out there. Thank you for writing in. Keep those questions coming. Subscribe, like, turn on your post notifications, and all that jazz.
And we will see you next week on a regular episode and the full, unpacking. Sorry,
the
Abby.
full Monty.
The full experience. We have a lot of guests, more guests. We've had some amazing guests already. And it's just going to keep getting even better than this. So we'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you so much for asking all these questions. It's been fabulous. Keep them coming. We will get to your question eventually. And if it feels like you're getting passed over, keep submitting that same question because we will see it here at Leave It on the Dance Floor. ALDC Elites, thank you so very much for listening. Be sure to subscribe and give Leave It on the Dance Floor a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to watch each week and see exclusive behind-the-scenes content like my never-seen-before pictures and videos from the competitions, some even taken from the wings, classes at the ALDC studio in Pittsburgh, or even our iconic dance concerts, head over to Patreon or become a member on YouTube Premium, linked in the show notes each week. See you on the flip side.